The adventure story begins with two men named Alex and Daniel, who were showing strange masks and swords in their hands, making considerable efforts to injure each other. It was then shown to us that they were being followed by several soldiers, who were quickly catching up to them. However, before they could reach them, Daniel fatally stabbed Alex with his sword. Suddenly, a green light began to emit from Alex's body, and all those soldiers were witnessing all these things with their own eyes, unable to comprehend that we had only seen such things in stories. So how did this reality convert eventually? A scene from a few years later was being shown where three thieves had come to steal from a safe named Pablo. One of the thieves named Blade was cautioning his two companions that they would have to work very cautiously because trackers could be placed on everything here, so they might get trapped. That's why they just needed to steal a few coins and then leave safely. When Blade was investigating, he suddenly found a green-colored egg. He became very curious to touch it, but Pablo, scolding him, said not to touch anything. Just then, the green-colored egg fell from Blade's hand and burst, and suddenly, the green energy started emanating from within him. This green energy was so powerful that his friend couldn't bear it, and was completely overwhelmed, breaking down. Now, the green energy was coming out of Blade's body again, entering his friend's body. But the surprising thing was that Blade's life wasn't at risk. He was perfectly safe. Now, on the other side, a store was being shown where Nolan, Gabby, and Louis, young boys, were playing. Nolan was telling the kids in the store about a game, which was not just a story, but a reality from many years ago. In fact, inside this game, there were four noble men who possessed very powerful helmets. Wearing these helmets, these four warriors gained a lot of power, allowing them to continuously defeat their enemies by converting them into green-colored stones. The enemies of all these noble men were no less, but only those four noble men knew the technique to control them. It is said that all the demons who are now converted into stones will someday be free, and if that happens, humanity will be in danger. Only the powerful helmet of those four noble men will be able to control them, which belongs to their lineage. Now, we were being shown a businessman named Corbin, who entered the same vault with his son, Ben. That was the same vault that the three thieves had come to steal some time ago. Corbin, with his son Ben, arrives there, and sees a dead body of a thief, and finds the premium green stone placed there as now shattered and disappeared. Corbin then tells his son Ben that maybe now is the time. Meanwhile, Blade's companion arrives at his boss with him, because his condition was quite bad. The boss of those thieves, focusing only on the stolen coins, asks why so little theft has been done. But Blade's condition was quite severe. A little later, when his boss sees Blade's face, his eyes turn completely green, and Blade, already looking quite angry and scary, is now here. At the store, a delivery boy comes to Nolan, who turns out to be none other than Corbin's son, Ben. Ben gives a box to Nolan and leaves from there. Ben couldn't understand because he hadn't recently placed any orders, yet he opens and sees the box. The surprising thing was that inside the box was the same helmet that Nolan used to tell stories to the kids. The helmet looked very cool and dashing. However, this time Nolan also asked Gabby about all these things, but Gabby didn't know anything about them. Now Nolan's friends tell her that she should try wearing this helmet. Nolan had jokingly put on the helmet, but suddenly he started seeing red-colored things all around him, and his head began to spin as if he couldn't control the helmet at all. A little while later, as soon as Nolan took off his helmet, he immediately passed out. Now we were being shown Blade, who was completely out of control. Blade's eyes were completely green, and standing up, he began to say that the helmet officer is around him somewhere, and they have to find and eliminate him by any means necessary. However, observing Blade's behavior, Blade's boss tells his men to take Blade away from here. Everyone starts attacking Blade, but Blade had become much more powerful and agile. He stops all their attacks and retaliates, injuring them severely. No one can stand against these new powers of Blade. Then Blade's boss takes out his gun and shoots Blade, but now those bullets have no effect on Blade. Blade now approaches his boss to exact revenge. The scene ends there. Now we see Nolan, who, due to dizziness, was being taken away in an ambulance to the hospital by some people. But then Blade arrives at the scene, pushing everyone away. For some reason, Blade starts chasing Nolan to kill him. Although Nolan had become quite weak, he somehow manages to run away from there. But immediately the supermarket manager comes with the helmet and asks Nolan to wear it. Although he didn't want to, Nolan had to do it out of compulsion. Nolan immediately put on the helmet, and the manager handed him a sword. Now, as soon as he approached Blade in this costume, Blade was suddenly in awe, and before his eyes, Nolan appeared as a warrior. Seeing this, Blade began to feel quite scared. In a very short time, Nolan managed to escape from there by overpowering Blade. When the warrior's helmet was removed, he immediately passed out. Now, a scene a bit later was shown where Nolan opens his eyes at Corbin's house. Corbin was an old man whose son Ben had gifted the helmet to Nolan. Gabby had also arrived there, relieved to see Nolan safe. It was only then that Corbin told Nolan the whole truth. Corbin was explaining that the costume and helmet you are seeing were real. They belonged to the noble men, the same noble men whose stories were often mentioned. They had unlimited powers to fight demons. The shocking revelation came when Corbin disclosed that Nolan's father, whose name was Daniel, was also a noble man who sacrificed his life fighting those demonic people. Although the army of noble men had converted all those demons into stones, now this demon had become free and entered Blade's body. He would gradually control many people, and it also became known to Nolan that Corbin himself was also a noble man like his father, and there were different types of noble men in every city who protected their area. That's why now everyone would have to come together in any way possible, form their teams, and gather to defeat the freed demons once again. Corbin takes Nolan to his security room and explains that they have placed a tracker on Blade's body. This means that wherever Blade goes, all the security cameras in that area will be under their control. With this technology, they could keep an eye on all of Blade's actions. Now, after Nolan learns the truth, his training as a noble man begins, which was a highly responsible task. Corbin wanted Nolan to finish all his training as soon as possible and become a good noble man. That's why Nolan was given all the costumes of a nobleman. Corbin's son, Ben, who was himself a nobleman, was present in front of Nolan. However, his task now was to teach Nolan all the techniques and everything between them. A fierce battle begins, but Nolan, who had no idea how to fight, couldn't stand against Ben's techniques and immediately lost. Gabby never thought Nolan would turn out to be so weak, so she started telling her father Corbin that instead of paying attention to useless people like Nolan, they should focus on gathering the noble men. But Corbin was explaining to his son Ben that Nolan is much more powerful among all our noble men because his father was also quite superior among our noble men, and all those things and techniques are within Nolan. It's just a matter of recognizing them and having faith in himself. Arvin helps Nolan understand this well.